Welcome back. This is Dan Havey with CF Ninja Hacks, and today we got a real simple little hack for you. Somebody in the Facebook group a couple weeks ago had asked the question is how you can have multiple pop-ups on the page, and I'll show you how to do that. And we're not going to really create multiple pop-ups. We are just going to use the same pop-up that's built into ClickFunnels and then change out the text inside of it depending on which of these two buttons you click on. Now, we're going to come in here into, let's turn the code off to begin with and just take a look at the pop-up. So we're going to say show the pop-up. And in here, I got three different sections that I made. One is for the open on exit intent. We'll take a look at that in a second. And then we got one each for the buttons. Now we can go to our pop-up settings. And you're going to see over here, we say trigger on exit. We can turn that on and off. We can trigger on page load, so as soon as the page loads, we can have that triggered, and we can set how many milliseconds of time. 1,000 milliseconds is 1 second, so we can set how much time we want before that pop-up is going to come up on page load. And then you can also open when an element is visible, but you can only have one of these, I do believe. Well, I don't know, maybe you could have more than one, but probably best practices would be not to have more than one. So all I'm going to build right now is on exit intent, because there's really no way that I looked at that I could see that we could easily say, okay, well, on exit intent, let's show one part of this, and then on trigger on page load, show a different section, and then show a third section down here. I didn't look at it deep enough to know if we could do that or not. So for this simple example, we're just going to do the one for exit intent, or you could do one on page load, but not one for each of them. So what we got here then is, so in our section, we need to be able to give each one of these a label. And the best way to do that is to do a custom attribute. So we're going to come in here, we're going to go to advanced, we're going to go to logic, and then we're going to set up this custom attribute. Now for these three individual sections, which of course you can put anything inside of the section once you put it on the page, we're going to give it a title of pop-up, and then we're going to give it a value of exit intent. And then for the second one down here, we're going to do the exact same thing here. We're going to give it a label or title. I forget exactly what they call the first part of an attribute like this. And then we're going to call this one button A. And of course, for the other one, we're going to call that button B down here. So it's very simple. We got pop-up equals exit intent, pop-up equals button A, and pop-up equals button B. So we're going to close that out. And then on the page here, we're going to put in our two buttons. Now, we don't have to do anything for the exit intent because that is triggered when the mouse goes off the top of the screen. But for the two buttons, we have to give them names. So again, we can target them in the code so that we can make them turn on and off. So what I did here, and I'm just moving forward without telling you what I'm doing, clicked on the settings, come here to advanced, come to logic, and again here I called this our trigger, and this is the trigger of button A, and as you can imagine, the other one is trigger equals button B. So we got trigger equals button B right there. So that's all you have to do as far as the setting up of the elements, setting up of the pop-up. Like I said, in the pop-up here, because you have a section, you can put anything inside of that section that you want, including if you use sections as an element, you can put sections inside of sections if you want as well. So now the little bit we have to do here is a little bit of code. And so we're going to go here, we're going to come into our footer code. And again, the code is pretty simple. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to say we want to hide any of the sections inside of the pop-up that have the attribute of pop-up equals button A or pop-up equals button B. Because remember, our three sections in there were pop-up equals exit intent, pop-up equals button A, pop-up equals button B. So we're going to say we want to hide the ones with the term button in it, and we do that by putting in the asterisk equals. So the asterisk equals right there means it contains the contains button. I was going to say the word button, but technically it contains those characters in that order is really what it means. But so if it contains the word button in there, it will hide it. So it's going to hide the two lower sections on the page. And so if we come over to our thing right here, and let's reload the page here because I already triggered this once. On page load, we come up here, you see the two for the buttonA and buttonB have hidden, so that if somebody comes to the page and then immediately bounces, it will show us the exit intent portion of it. Now, the other part here is, again, very simple. All we're going to say is if somebody clicks on trigger equals buttonA, so they click on buttonA, so we're looking at right here. So if they click on that button that has the attribute of trigger equals buttonA, and that's what this means here on click function, so we're going to run this function if somebody clicks on it, and we're going to say pop-up hide. What this does is all of the elements inside of our pop-up, again, we open up our pop-up, all three of these elements inside of here, all three of these sections, had an attribute that started with pop-up equals exit intent, pop-up equals buttonA, etc. So they all had that in common, and so therefore we can just say pop-up hide, because all of them started with pop-up. We can just say pop-up hide, and then we say pop-up equals buttonA show. So somebody clicks on buttonA here, the pop-up portion that is buttonA will show. That section will show. And the same thing again, the exact same thing with buttonB. buttonB is clicked on. We're going to hide everything inside of the pop-up, and we're only going to show the buttonB part. Now, the main reason we need to do this part here of hiding all three of them is, first off, we have to hide the exit intent no matter what, because that's always going to be there. The other thing is somebody could come in and click on buttonA, and once they click on buttonA, then it would stay visible on the page. So we have to make sure we hide that again as well. So that's all there is to it. I guess one thing I could do here is, I was thinking as I was just talking here, is I don't have a case in here where if somebody clicked on buttonA and then did an exit intent afterwards, that it would show the exit intent pop up. I think generally speaking, if somebody's going to do an exit intent, it's going to be early on. It's not necessarily going to be at the end. But let me just pause here for a second, and let me see if I can put that in real quick. Okay, so I put that in here right now. So if we were to go out the top right now, we would get our exit intent, but you're only allowed one exit intent on every page load. So we'll come in here now. We'll click on A shows. Let's click on B will show. And now if we go out the top, open on exit intent will show. And what we do is we trigger it off of this button right here. And if we right click and inspect that element, we're going to come over here. We're going to see this right here. And it's got a class of close LP modal. So that's what we're going to use as our trigger. So when somebody clicks on that close LP modal, that's what we're doing right here. When they click on that, again, we're going to hide all of the elements on the page, and we're going to show the section that has the attribute of pop-up equals exit intent. So we're going to show that one. So that was pretty simple to get that in there as well. So that is it. If you got any questions, just let me know.